Welcome to the definitive guide to why broad doesn't work. Now, I hear this a lot, and we're actually going to debunk a lot of the reasons. We're also going to explain why broad isn't working for you. And more importantly, how you can fix that. And even more importantly, what you should be looking at to potentially redefine what works actually means. And lastly, we're going to even get into a transition plan to how to figure out how to move from a very complicated ad account that leverages getting lucky and hard work and honestly just a lot of bad ideas that have been obsolete for years into something you can manage in 15-20 minutes a day, a few days a week, and actually grow the rest of your business as a result. So today we're going to dive into why broad doesn't work. I think this is going to be super fun. Now, I know you can be anywhere on the internet right now, and I really, really appreciate you being here. If you're subscribed to this on the audio podcast, do me a favor. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Get the auto down below. You don't have to listen to every one of them, but if you just go ahead and get the auto download, subscribe to it, it would mean the world to me. Those numbers help. If you're on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to this thing. You don't necessarily have to watch all of them. I would love it if you did, but look, subscribe, drop a comment below if you have any questions, show the love if you have it, and share this with other people because, hey, all of those things help. Now, in the description below, you're going to see a great article to dive way deep into the 3 topics we're going to cover today, as well as links so that you can learn from me, you can work with me, and that you can connect with me. If it's just as simple as joining the newsletter, check that out. There's a great bonus. If you join it, you can get 80% off. One of the best ebooks we have right away. And if you really want to start leveling up your career and your business, you can also check out the link for the Facebook Ads MBA program and see if that's the right fit for you. But that being said, let's go. So, broad doesn't work. The lookalikes and the interest groups, the retargeting are so much better. I hear this all the time. And you know, the honest truth is, you're right. But that's also not the whole story. So one of the reasons broad works so well is because every ad makes its own audience. And again, if you need to understand more about that, please comment below. There's tons of videos I can link you to, and I can definitely help you out with that. But at a very short level, if you show an ad to 1,000 people, 500 people like it, 500 people don't like it. The next 1,000 impressions is going to be built off of those 500 people that like it. Facebook is going to show those ads to people who look like those others that responded positively to that ad. Every ad makes its own lookalike audience. That's how Facebook works. That's what the optimized CPM environment works on paid and organic, right? TikTok does the same thing. How does something go viral? Well, people like it, so other people that look like the people that liked it see that content. Same thing happens in an ad. And the better the ad is at making this audience, the more data it has, the greater it's able to lean into that. Well, the lower your CPMs are, the greater your estimated action rate is, and the higher quality the users that you're actually getting that ad shown to. And that's a big piece that I don't hear talked about nearly enough. Facebook is going to show your ad to the people who are most positively going to receive it. But more importantly, when Facebook is determining what ad to show to what person, it's going to prioritize that above the fold first impression when somebody logs in and they're ready to go to the advertiser that creates the higher quality ad unit. So when you are forcing ads onto people, or if you have a lower quality ad, not only are you paying a much higher CPM, but you're also reaching much lower quality people at a higher cost. So it's not just about showing the ads around, because I feel like there's this big misconception that audiences do targeting and that somehow the ads just get randomly distributed to those people. That's not how it works at all. It actually hasn't worked like that since 2016, 2017. And even then, that's not really how it worked. But when people say, well, broad doesn't work because how much money am I going to have to spend for Facebook to have to learn how to show this ad to? 1 penny. And even then, that very first impression is a retargeting impression because Facebook is understanding how people are going to respond to that ad based on your landing page, based on the metadata of the landing page, based on the content of your website, based on everything else in that user's journey and what you are selling. You might have never had an ad You might have a landing page that is brand new. You might have a website that's never seen a user, a Facebook account that has just started a second ago, and no organic social media. Your very first impression will be a retargeting impression. Unless you have a product that nobody's ever heard of. If you've invented shoes, then maybe it's not a retargeting impression. But you also have competitors. And this really goes into how broad works. Now, we have to understand, when you say broad doesn't work, we say, well, lookalike audiences work better. Interest groups work better. The new topic du jour that I'm seeing is the Proxima audiences and the Shopify audiences are better. And retargeting audiences are better. And when I run side by side, the lookalike just does so much better than the broad does. You might even say, well, the broad gets more spend, but the lookalike is way more efficient. And you're right. On Facebook. With the front-end metrics, according to an attribution model that might work for you, and the Facebook data that you probably don't trust anyway. Now, the reason that these audiences work better is because of the front-end metrics that we see on Facebook, but more importantly, when you're running a lookalike audience and a broad, you are narrowing down the entire universe to just these folks. Now, the likelihood, the makeup of just those folks to have a higher quality user in them is obviously greater, right? Because it's a smaller audience. It's a fraction, right? So 1,000 people out of 2 million is better than 5,000 people out of 200 million. It's just a ratio. But that also means when you're running the lookalike against the broad, that every sale that lookalike has, every impression that lookalike has, every click that lookalike gets is data that the broad doesn't get. So remember, broad needs data to get better, and it will consistently get better with every single impression. Remember that ad gets shown to 1,000 people, and then the next 500, next 1,000 look like the first good 500 people, and that cycles over and over and over again? Broad's doing the same thing. But if you say, well, the best 200 out of that 1,000, I'm actually going to put somewhere else. Now you're keeping broad a little bit dumber, because it's only going to see 300 folks out of that initial 1,000 impressions that are good, but not the best 200. So it's not going to get as good as fast. Now you might use interest groups, same thing. Now people have this false idea that interest groups mean that you actually care about something, or that you're interested in something, or that you're a buyer. That's completely wrong. 1/3 of the people in an interest group are there by accident because Facebook hasn't been updating that tech in years. And half the people that are still in that group might really dislike something. But if they talk about it, they're in the interest group. So you might be stuck with 1/3 of that audience is actually good impressions for you, which means also you're forcing more and more impressions to users who might not want to see you. Are your CPMs over $30? Are they over 25? Maybe this is why. And now we have to understand that when you're using the lookalikes and the interest groups and even retargeting, those audiences are smaller and they're cherry picking the good impressions from broad. So say you get 100 sales today and 70 of them come from lookalike groups and interest groups and retargeting audiences. Those are 70 data points of a sale that broad isn't able to see. So that broad ad set is inhibited in getting good as fast as it could be. Now, what's more important here that we have to understand is the implication downstream. You could leave that broad on and it will continue to stabilize and get better and better and better and better. The question is, how long are you going to wait to fully invest in that? And we'll get to a transition plan later on. No worries. The point that I'm getting to here is the reason that lookalike looks better is because there's a smaller group of people in a smaller audience that you can reach more efficiently today on the front end of the business. And we're going to get to also lift versus ROAS, because that's a big thing that we need to focus in on how an advertiser who's looking at the Facebook results has a very myopic view of business success versus a business owner that's trying to scale their brand and has an omni-channel universe to look at is going to define success extraordinarily differently. But let's take that myopic view of the Facebook advertiser looking at the Facebook ad account and maybe their North Beam or Triple Whale dashboard, etc. Every time that interest group gets a sale, it's making the broad dumber. Every time that lookalike makes a sale, it's making broad dumber. And what I mean by that is not that it's actually making that broad audience less effective today, but it's an opportunity cost. That sale, instead of going towards broad, is going someplace else. So broad, the rate at which broad gets better and better and better in that compounding interest of value, which is how broad works, is inhibited. Now, you can run a very mature broad and a lookalike. You know what? That lookalike is probably going to be more efficient on far less spend. People say, well, broad just gets all the spend and I can't trust it. What's the blended result look like? Maybe when you run broad and a lookalike, the lookalike gets better and the broad is worse than your average. But what's the blended output of that entire campaign look like? What about your entire account? We have to look at what works differently than what gives me the best ROAS on whatever it is. And you have to stop thinking of broad as a tool that doesn't know what's going on based on random distribution with a worse ROAS and a worse CPA. It's a tool in the blend to produce an output that's desirable. We're building a team of options to allow our employee, Facebook, to do the best work. And if we don't like the output of that work, it's our fault as the manager for inhibiting the growth of our employees and ultimately not giving them the best tools to succeed. Now, if you have any questions on this stuff, please comment below. I know that's a big, big topic. We didn't really get into as much as I wanted to there, but what I do want to focus on just to clear this out is lookalikes, interest groups, retargeting, CPMs are going to be higher. There's also much more downstream impact, which we're going to cover here in a second. If you like what you have to see here, please subscribe, comment if there's things, share this video with other folks, join the newsletter if you want this kind of information on a weekly basis, and if you want more stuff, hey, click down below. There's tons of resources for you, including the MBA program.